This installment of the Morgenthau Plan is on the Second Quebec Conference. President Roosevelt and Winston Churchill met at the Second Quebec Conference, the Octagon Conference. It took place between 9 and 21 September 1944. The public was informed that the primary purpose of the meeting was to discuss military matters. According to Alexander Octagon, the British Foreign Office Undersecretary, the president stated, quote, "Quebec is to be entirely military. If any other subject comes up, I shall call Cordell right away." That's Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State. It would therefore be unnecessary to have State Department representatives there. The president did not only deceive the public, but he was deceiving his own State Department. The intended purpose of the conference was to gain Churchill's acceptance of the Morgenthau Plan. On September 12th, Morgenthau requested to be allowed to attend the conference. Churchill was interested in Morgenthau's attendance because he wanted to discuss Lean Lease. Roosevelt discussed the Morgenthau Plan with Churchill over lunch on the 13th. Morgenthau and White arrived after lunch. The president met with Morgenthau after lunch and told him he wanted him to talk with Churchill's advisor, Lord Churchill. He informed Morgenthau that Churchill was not very enthusiastic about the plan. The following day, there was a dinner meeting. After dinner, Morgenthau began to explain his plan. According to Morgenthau, Churchill was violently opposed to the plan. He looked upon it as he would on chaining himself to a dead German. Churchill was aware that the plan would cause economic chaos throughout Europe. The 3-hour-long discussion did not change his mind. The meeting ended with the president saying, "Let the Prof," that's Lord Churchill, "go into our plans with Morgenthau." In the morning of the 14th of September, Morgenthau and White met with Lord Churchill. Churchill explained that Churchill's opposition stemmed from the fact that he did not understand the plan. At 11 a.m., Roosevelt met with Churchill. They were joined a half hour later by Morgenthau and White. Churchill recorded that Churchill was converted to the agrarian plan. He had made a 180-degree change. That afternoon, Anthony Eden and Alexander Octagon arrived. Eden is the foreign minister. That evening, there was another dinner meeting. At this meeting, Anthony Eden expressed his strong opposition to the plan. Morgenthau and White met with Churchill in the morning of the 15th to prepare their meeting with the President and Prime Minister. At noon, Morgenthau and Churchill met with Eden, Octagon, Churchill, and Roosevelt. The first matter of discussion was an agreement to provide Britain with $6.5 billion in Lean Lease assistance. This assistance was Churchill's primary goal in attending this conference. Morgenthau and Roosevelt did not make it easy for Churchill, and at one point Churchill stated, "What do you want me to do, stand up and beg like Fala?" And Churchill was referring to Roosevelt's dog Fala. Immediately after the agreement on Lean Lease, Churchill turned to Morgenthau and Churchill and asked, "Where are the minutes on this matter of the Ruhr?" There was no memo describing the plan, so Churchill took the initiative and dictated his plan, his interpretation of the plan. And this is it. At the conference between the President and Prime Minister upon the best measures to prevent renewed rearmament of Germany, it was felt that an essential feature was the future disposition of the Ruhr and the Saar. The ease with which the metallurgical, chemical, and electrical industries in Germany can be converted from peace to war has already been impressed upon us by bitter experience. It must also be remembered that the Germans have devastated a large portion of the industries of Russia and other neighboring allies, and it's only in accordance with justice that these injured countries should be entitled to remove the machinery they require in order to repair the losses they have suffered. The industries referred to in the SAR and in the ROAR would therefore be necessarily put out of action and closed down. It was felt that the two districts should be put under somebody under the World Organization, which would supervise the dismantling of these industries and make sure that they were not started again by some subterfuge. The program for eliminating the war-making industries in the ROAR and the SAR is looking forward to converting Germany into a country primarily agricultural and pastoral in its character. And this was signed by Churchill and FDR. Churchill's addition of the term pastoral was a nice touch, making this genocidal plan sound like a plan to create a utopian agricultural community. Churchill's physician, Lord Moran, was bewildered by Churchill's abrupt change. He recorded that Eden flew into a rage and stated the plan would not work. At that, Churchill lost his temper and they had a heated discussion. Churchill responded, "I've no patience with people who are always raising difficulties." Eden recorded in his memoirs, "This is the only occasion I can remember when the Prime Minister showed impatience with my views before foreign representatives." Secretary of State Cordell Hull was shocked by the news from Quebec. He wrote, "On the same day, September 15th, that the President sent me the memorandum embracing the Morgenthau Plan and the decision on zones of occupation, he sent me another memorandum which informed me that Morgenthau had presented at Quebec in conjunction with his plan for Germany a proposal to credit to Britain totaling $6.5 billion. This might suggest to some a quid pro quo with the Secretary of Treasury, who was able to get Churchill's adherence to his cataclysmic plan for Germany." A few pages later, Hull is more specific when he writes, "The British at Quebec had joined in this extreme starvation plan in order to get Morgenthau's help in obtaining $6.5 billion credit proposed by the Secretary of the Treasury." The Quebec Conference is a classical example of the deceptiveness of the Roosevelt administration. The purpose of the conference had to be concealed from the public and even the President's own State Department. Henry Morgenthau III commented, "In order to obscure the true nature of Octagon, spokesmen told the press that the decisions were exclusively concerned with military matters, particularly the war in the Pacific and Asia. So the highest-ranking uniformed personage were put on display." It is understandable that the public and press would accept the press releases of the administration. It's far less understandable that respected historians would continue this pretense. With few exceptions, the unbelievable credulity of professional historians is on display when covering President Roosevelt's policies.